Yeah, just pass it on to them.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to City Council meeting. I'd like to begin today by standing for a moment of silence, and we'll follow that with Pledge of Allegiance.
That's nice where you put it in perspective.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if we could have a roll call, please.
Tom Eggers,
Here.
Wayne Barahona, Brad Kent.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Steve Hamel.
Here.
Wayne will be joining us shortly, I think, so. Moving on then to item 2, the approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion for that.
So moved. Or support.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Item 3 of the agenda is our public forum for items on or off the agenda. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the council at this time? And were there any written comments?
No.
None, okay. Then we can move on then to approval of our consent agenda.
Move that we accept the consent agenda.
Support. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
All right, item 5A, under new business. First item there is the 2023 street patching project. Todd, you want to address that?
Yeah, sure can. Landon Lake from Beck Engineering is here. I'll actually let him take this one.
Welcome, Landon.
Thank you. Well, like Todd said, Landon with Beck Engineering. Yeah, we wrapped up plans for this project last week. It's a reconstruction of the intersections of East 6th Street and 23rd Ave and East 6th Street and 26th Ave. We're just looking at basically removing and replacing pavement, sidewalks, and adjusting some sanitary sewer manholes and whatnot, just to repair the condition of the pavement and increase the drainage patterns in the intersections. So we're looking to set bid dates and public hearing dates. We're looking at a bid date of March 9th, 10 a.m., and a public hearing and recommendation to council on March 15th. So open it up to some questions.
Questions from any of you guys? I guess I'm having, one question I have, how old is the original, is it a replacement of the original streets that were put out there?
Yeah, it was.
Do you have any idea how old those are?
So 23rd Ave would be like 80s. 26th Ave is much newer than that. But if you recall, in like 2000, and I'm going to say that street was put in like 2000. But in like 2005, we had to redo part of East 6th between 25th and 24th. And the 26th intersection, the reason I want to do that one now, or the reason that will come up, is it's fallen like the other does, and it creates some terrible, terrible summertime trip hazards, and just want to get it taken care of before we have somebody on their nose there.
Even when you say 2000, it's still 20 years old.
It is, yeah, it's older than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I think the 22nd, 23rd Avenue were put in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. If there are no other questions, we need a motion to approve, losing my spot here. Approve the plans and specifications, there we go. Item 5B. And also set the bid open for March 9. Can we do that in one motion?
Yeah, 5A.
Okay. Did someone make a motion for that effect?
Bless
Who did?
No, I said bless you.
Oh, thank you. I'll make that motion. Oh, bless you too. Oh, no. I would move
Okay.
to that effect, including the bless you. Oh.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Eggers,
Aye.
Snyder,
All right.
Kent,
Aye.
Hamel,
Aye.
All right, then, next item up is the Lewis and Clark connection.
Yeah, Mayor, Ryan Norman with DGR is helping me out with that project. He couldn't be here tonight, so I can give you a brief, but essentially Lewis and Clark has the meter building on site, and they're running the pipe into our water treatment plant. From there, we need to take that water, blend it with our existing water, get it shipped back out to our customers in a new blend. Chemical feed addition, and whatnot is all part of this project too. So this has a bid date of February 23 at 2 p.m. and then a potential public hearing on March 1. Other than that, I'll stand for questions.
Anything from any of you guys?
Lewis and Clark is intending on being here by, late 2023, early 2024. So it's imperative we get this work done before they're here so that we can transport the water. Otherwise, we'll have water available to us that we won't be able to utilize.
As far as the work that's being done, is there any addition that's going on to the water plant, or it's just all within the structure that's
Yeah,
there?
it's remodeling within our existing structure.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It is good to see we're at this point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been a long process,
Mhm.
but
And he said it would never happen, Brad.
I've been in many meetings in this room that I've heard that comment. So,
Is there any transition time required between getting these improvements made, in preparation for the new water coming and actually still delivering our current product?
The switchover will happen in a day.
Okay.
We will likely switch, and I don't have a date yet for you, Tom, but part of the process of this will be switching disinfectant types as well. We'll be switching from free chlorine to chloramination,
Okay.
which is the process that Lewis and Clark uses. There's lots of reasons for that, and I'm not going to explain that today. But anyways, we'll likely do that sometime this summer. But we've got some public education that needs to happen before we do that. But the day that it happens, it'll happen in a day, and then it'll just take some time for us to tweak and get our blends.
So the community will hear about the progress of this project as far as how it's going to affect them or not affect them then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because, one other big thing about this is chloride reduction. We have at the wastewater treatment plant, we have a new chloride discharge limit, and we cannot meet that chloride discharge limit without the reduced softened water. And so we will need people at the time of switchover to turn their softeners back from the settings they have now. So, most of you in your homes probably have your softeners set at 50 or 55 right now. Once we blend this water, we're planning on providing the citizens of Sheldon 13 grain water. So they'll be able to turn their water softeners way back, which will reduce water consumption in their homes and the purchase of salt substantially. So yes, there's a lot of public education that needs to happen between
Good.
now and October or November of this year.
I appreciate you addressing that. That way, as we move through this, people are listening and are aware that we're going to be talking to them about it. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anybody else? Then we need a motion to approve the plans and specs and set the bid opening for February 23rd.
So moved.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kent,
aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hamel,
Aye. All right, then the moment we've all been waiting for, wrapping up the fiscal year.
We need the motion on the urban renewal
Oh,
resolution.
yep, missed that. All right, very good, thank you.
I'll make the motion on the urban renewal resolution.
Support.
Any questions or comments on that? Roll call, please.
Hamel,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Kent,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye. Now, we can move on into item 6. wrapping up the fiscal year 23-24 city budget. You want to address council first?
Yeah, if I could. So I'd like to first talk to you about something that, there's been a development this afternoon in the legislature. So just before I came up here, received a message from one of my fellow city managers that, and Angie received similar information, that Senate File 181 passed out of the Senate on a 49-0 vote. It does give cities an extra 30 days to figure out how we're going to make up for, how cities are going to make up for the shortfall caused by a recalculation in the residential rollback. And the House is to consider the bill next week. There were attempts to delay the effect of the bill till next year, and those attempts didn't succeed. So just to briefly explain what this means, Scott Stevenson assisted Angie and I with the calculation for 2022 values. The city has roughly $278.5 million in total residential value. The article, or there was a supposed mistake or corrective legislation, and that would reduce the rollback percentage by 1.9%, and so that means our general fund levies would experience a $4.6 million reduction. To skip to the end, what it means is that the general fund, which is our biggest levy of $8.10, would produce $37,289 less. So if you look at my report on the cash balance estimated in the general fund, subtract 37 off of that, we're still okay. The caution that I would say to you as we move into tonight is, Angie and I encourage you to try to resist the temptation to take too much more out of the general fund. We did a little bit of that last time, so that's okay. And, you know, that's something that we can do, but it's probably a good idea to proceed with caution on that, because the general fund seems to absorb a lot of these blows that we see in new legislation that comes out. So,
Got one question.
yeah.
With the levy, what happens if we keep the levy the same rate that we had in last budget, instead of lowering it this budget?
Well,
Just keep it a constant rather than the up-down roller coaster of the levy.
I think your idea last year was an excellent one, and I think with the news coming out of Des Moines this afternoon, that's an even better idea this year, Brad. So that I would support that.
Because it'd be nice to have a tax cut, but then next year you're going to have an increase, so why not keep it constant? That's just the thought I had here, while you were telling us that.
I think there's value in it, especially in an inflationary period that we're going through, beginning last year all the way through this year, and will probably be affecting next year yet too, and some of the budgetary decisions we have to make because of that. I think there's some merit in that. Maintaining and not increasing
Yeah.
is two different things.
Yeah.
And so I could see some value in that.
Have you heard any talk at all of rectifying the mistake that they made in this process? Or it is what it is, just live with it?
Well, it appears that the solution that's being advanced on the Senate side, and it's unanimous, which means that that's been the consensus. There was an effort this afternoon to amend, or earlier today, to amend that bill to have the state make up for the loss, similar to the backfill, and that failed. And so the short answer to your question is, the answer is giving us a little bit more time. So,
But how we're going to deal with it on our end, we're not going to,
Right.
they're not going to make up for it on
No.
the state side.
At this point, time isn't money.
yeah, I think what we can, our takeaway is that last year we showed a fair amount of vision by doing what we did with keeping the levy the same, and I think you have even more cause to do that this year. And what you did last year helps insulate us from, there's a lot of cities reeling today from the impact of this. So there's smaller cities that are really affected by this change.
We end up paying for their mistake.
Exactly.
And they're gonna make up their,
Sticks in my
Kind of the
craw.
way it works.
yeah, it's government. Yep, it's government.
How's that go? What slides down? Oh, never mind.
All right, so with that information, let's begin with this discussion on local option sales tax.
If I might.
Yes, sir.
So there's big sheets printed out for you with some of the relevant boxes highlighted in yellow. And the first highlighted box is your estimated balance, which has gone up a bit since for the adjustments a few weeks ago, including the splash pad coming out. By the way, the expenditure on the batting cages was $21.22, so that's not, I misspoke a few weeks ago. I said that $15,000 needed to be factored in. That was already taken care of, so that's not a factor in this discussion. Your next highlight is the investments of $275,000. That number, if you scroll up to the top, was $327 last year. We spent some of that down. Angie and I recommend not dipping into that too far because there's a potential for at least $200,000 in grant match for USDA. By the way, on USDA rural development, I will hit that now. I reached out to Brad Richter, who is our contact, and he's been very responsive. And as usual, he responded within about 5 minutes, but this time it was to let me know that there's somebody else at USDA handling that file, and probably it's going to be a while before I hear anything. So the next yellow box is the $91,821, and that's a new invention. That simply is 10% of the number at the top. So that came up out of discussions over the last month. And then you have the two highlighted boxes down below for discussion, $50,000 each for police vehicle number 2, which would be the 6th vehicle. Correct, Chief? That'd be vehicle number 6. And vehicle number 5 is second line from the bottom in the first section there under estimated revenues and expenses. So that's been moved up there. So that's funded. And then you have the fire study. And then you have your list of removed items down at the bottom that you decided on last time.
First of all, I want to lead off by thanking my fellow councilman for going through the workshop without me being there. Sorry about that. But it wasn't that I wasn't looking at it and had some thoughts, but from what I can tell, most all the decisions you guys made were pretty much along the lines that I would have made as well. I see that the estimated balance of 105,306 is much healthier than it was the last time I looked at it, and so how we got there has got us on the positive side of this, which is good. So I think for the discussion part of it, I'll just put out my opinion on that at this point, and that would be the $250,000 expenditures. Knowing that we have 105,306 as being our estimated balance, I would propose this. I would maintain both of these in the budget as it's shown here, but I would delay action on those two items until we do mid-year analysis of the budget. See how our revenue is doing, see how our expenses are doing, before we would actually enter into an expenditure portion of that. Just because if we act on it right away, we're basically leaving ourselves a zero balance. So I think that still allows us opportunity to do these important things, but also we don't kind of get the cart before the horse, in my opinion. Let's find out what we got for revenue. If it still looks like it's on track or hopefully better than what it is, that'll give us a better position to make take action on those two expenditures.
So that would be like a year from now then, or 6 months from now? I mean, 6 months from now, we're just into the year, so.
Right, yeah, as I said, did I say mid-year? I probably should have said mid-budget. So whenever we're halfway through the budget of this budget, we would then look at it and say, hey, where are we at with revenue and expenses?
So basically, January 1 of next year.
Right.
Do have a question for Chief Birch. What's the lead time on vehicles? About 8 months.
I think that's probably going to improve if it looks like their supply and their sales are down right now, and so I think that historically that'll improve here in the next while.
Now, let me make myself clear. I think we'll be able to exercise on these. I don't think we're going to end up with less in our budget than what we're expecting, because we're being pretty conservative with it already. But I do feel that because we have such a skimpy balance, that it would be prudent of us just to delay it a little while until we really understand. So.
Any other comments?
So the rule is you can take it off later, but you can't add it later. Is that's the way it's set up, right?
Take it off, what do you, I'm sorry,
Like
what?
what you said, if our income if we're not there, then we don't have to.
Then we
do it.
just don't extend it.
Okay,
Mhm.
but you can't add it later.
You can through an amendment process.
Okay.
I think that sounds like a reasonable approach.
That covers us.
But then for Scott, if he orders it in December, you're not having it until October. Can you shuffle the money to pay for it in next year's budget then?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, we do like we do up top, what we've got left to expend, we would just take it out of there and move it down into the next year.
And, the other side I can comment is the, fire chief, the architectural, it's not all for architectural fees for that. It's for, if we want to have a planning session between the 3-4 entities, SCAT, Police Department, EMA, Fire Department, on what our needs are, what their needs are. It's to help us paint the road. It's not to get anything anywhere near bidding or final design or nothing. This is just preliminary, what could work with the current buildings, what everybody's needs are. We got to have something to start with. Scott was out of here earlier the last fall looking for stuff. And so it's not just the fire department, it's the whole emergency services that would be in that pot. And, it's not just architectural and engineering fees. It's to look at a whole study. We probably should have said emergency services building study, like we do with water and wastewater. We say they're always studies. So.
I'm curious, I didn't attend all of the task force meetings, but was any of that talked about then?
I couldn't tell you I wasn't part of it.
Yeah, there was some discussion,
Okay.
and I think the core result of that was to encourage the 4 departments to meet and come up with their recommendation to the council.
I like the idea of what you're saying, instead of just calling it fire, call it emergency services, then
Yeah.
everybody's at the table.
And when I put it in the budget, I just, since the fire department's asking,
Right.
that's why I put it in there, and,
You're leading the
you know,
cause,
talking to Sam, and then talking to some other, city employees, they said, make it a study. We always have water studies, or we always have wastewater studies, and, so,
Well, I think that study, the results of it will, if it comes out that the study, there is a need for it, that makes it easier to sell to the public in terms,
Yeah.
because it looks like it's gonna have to go to a public vote.
and we might not need, we probably could, I don't know, I just threw a number out of the sky and said, here's a number, we'll put it in the budget, and, if it's 25,000, it's 25,000. I think probably Chief Birch and Kristen would probably agree with that, that's kind of what I see that being used for.
Mm-hmm. So, I think we're at a point now where, unless somebody has something else they want to add, we can take a motion to the effect of what Tom was talking about. And maybe put in the motion that we call it not an architecture, but just a emergency services study.
So moving.
Okay?
You want the motion?
Yeah. So the motion would be, as Tom pretty much stated, you have that down, what he had.
So I guess I just want to be clear. You want it in the budget. We're going to budget the expense.
Right.
But we will reevaluate, they are not, I guess, neither department is allowed to spend the funds until we reevaluate the loss estimates, mid-budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm proposing that we just delay action on it, yeah.
I don't see a need having to make a motion. I think we can come out with census. That's what we're gonna do with those 2 items.
No offense, Brad, but I
It's
think
gotta-
I'd like
I
a
think it ought to
motion
be
in a
okay.
second, because Sam and I got into an argument when there wasn't a motion at the last budget
Okay.
hearing.
So I will make.
I think it ought to be in there.
Okay, so we have the motion,
I
everybody.
lost the argument, by the way.
Who lost?
I did.
Oh.
Imagine that.
You should know better than
I know.
I'd second, no, not that. That's-
You'll second the motion? though?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Everybody understands the motion and didn't need to have it read anymore. We can roll call, please.
Eggers,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hamel,
Aye.
Kent,
All right.
Yeah, passed, so aye.
All right, next item is a recap from the city clerk.
what? I didn't know I was doing anything. Did you want me to say something?
You're in the hot seat now.
If you have anything.
Well, just the expenses and then balance estimate.
I
That's all it
just
is.
implemented, it's a change to loss, it's a change to transfers from the changes that you guys made. I took the special event expense and made a line item out of police, made a line item out of SCAT, and made a line item out of road use. And I moved the police bathroom from local option into his operating.
Thank you, Angie.
You're welcome.
Okay, any questions on that? Then we'll recap this with the city manager.
Yeah, so if we could, before we get into my items, take a look at that attachment under benefits levy scenarios. You see that? And I also printed it for you too. And,
Last item under B.
yep, that's the last attachment under B. So just take a look at that. Those are scenarios for you to consider based on the discussion a few weeks ago. So just have that in your mind when we talk about the next several attachments. Guys see
That
it?
one with the boxes. Nope, down.
This one.
Yep, that one.
That one? This one?
Yep, it says employee benefits at the top and total levy on the right-hand side.
The white sheet right there. The one right there.
And it's also linked to the
Yeah.
bottom of
Come on, sorry, I'm under.
6B.
I have too many sheets over here.
Wait, sure, that's fine.
And now if it's okay, I'll get into
Yeah, send it up.
my list.
Okay.
So I'll briefly describe all of these collectively, and then we can discuss them individually if you'd like. Budget overview, you've seen that memo before, no change. The first responder memo is the same as a few weeks ago. You have the life insurance quote, state code, and IPERS eligibility, and then the fitness rates or the wellness rates for NCC and the courtyard. And then you have a couple of items which haven't been linked, and that is the total compensation overview, the memo that I sent to city employees explaining the total compensation statement, and then an example of two compensation statements, one based on $16 an hour and one on $20 an hour in Excel, so you could do your own calculations on the side if you wanted to. So, I think if you want, we can start in order and start with the first responder memo, if anyone has anything on that. And I wasn't asked to do this, I just put this together based on my interpretation of the outcome of the Emergency Services Task Force, which was to try to find ways for recruitment and retention. And it also hopefully staves off the need for more full-time employees. So that you benefit more people with something like this, and hopefully have more retention as a result. So Angie laid out several scenarios. You can pick and choose. You can do all of them. I'll stand for questions.
So on the sheet with the options, our current levy is 15.248. Correct?
Correct.
So what we just said not too many minutes ago is that maybe we should leave our levy as it is, not lower it to what was proposed to be like 15.08, if I remember right.
Right.
So if, I think we found favor and made good sense to do that. Are all of these which one of these would not raise the levy? Which of these here would not raise, these options would not raise the levy? The third one on the first page? No, that one.
Or the second one on the first page, which is just FTEs at 5.5. The first one on the second page. The second one on the second page. And that would be it.
Okay. So if we agree not to raise levy, then we'd have those three options. So out of those three, which ones do we get the most bang for the buck?
Mind me saying which one I feel?
Yeah.
I feel the second one on the second page gets Fire department, they're hourly. All EMS get IPers. And it's just, the increase for the FTEs is, you know, a little more than the 2.75. But what you can do there too is that total is the 790, 896. We can go up to 795,000 to get it to 15.247. Which, and actually with our debt levy going down, if you want to keep the overall levy the same, we can probably go higher than 795. But I did not figure that. Sorry.
So if we were to look at adding a little to that, how would that be dispersed amongst these three line items? Or would it?
It'd just be the employee benefits levy, so it'd all go into the employee benefits fund.
Okay,
And it'd be a carryover for next year.
okay.
Mhm.
So we would have extra money, basically. Okay.
So on the EMS levy, is that just the ambulance then for the IPers?
No,
Okay, that's
That's all
all?
three.
All three? Okay,
and that is the full wages
okay.
amount, so I
Okay.
mean, the likelihood of us doing that, because EMA more than likely is not
Not
gonna qualify,
qualify,
and
sure.
there will be other departments
Yep.
that will have people that won't
Qualify. Yep,
but that's
Okay.
worst case scenario.
okay, that was just my question there.
Yep.
That included everybody.
So I guess the next question in my mind is, with that being said, are we able to make enough movement with this to kind of fight the inflationary issues we're dealing with here? And maintain a workforce and a budget within this budget until next budget cycle?
What's inflation going to do in that time frame? I mean, we know what to forecast what we've saw in in this budget.
Remember, last year, we went 2.75, and we saw inflation skyrocket beyond that.
Correct.
And I think that's why we're looking at this and saying, well, I think there's value in this. You know, there's some fairness in this. So my question again to the council, as it was last year, is this a good enough step to reach those objectives of retention and fairness for what we can afford? And so I guess my answer to that would probably be yes, but I know you guys have greater and broader perspectives other than mine, so I would like to hear what you guys say.
I've been all over the board on this in terms of more, stay at the same. I mean, we go through the bargaining process with union employees, so we know what we're going to spend, but, it's always the but. This is an exceptional year. Well, the year prior was not, I think the 2.75 was ahead of inflationary expenses at that point. So, I mean, does it come out in the wash? I mean, like I said, I've been all over. And when I with Angie speaking to that, and I was thinking of 4%, that to me, I don't know why I landed on that number, but that's kind of in my mind when I was thinking that 4% made sense. Just, it shows effort on our part to do more than what we have negotiated for, and hopefully that transfers down to all employees to realize that we do value them and we are doing what we can to compensate them fairly. And looking at what some of the other communities in the memo that came today, Orange City, Sioux Center, you know, it's in line with what's happening there as well, I think. But as far as is it enough, based on the coming year, it's really hard to say.
And that's one of those questions that we realistically can't answer.
second one on the second page there is, I would be in favor of that. That's based on Angie's recommendation, based on some of the other information we've got. I would speak in favor of that then.
If I might?
Yes, sir.
So while you're thinking about that, if that's the direction that you go, you don't have to decide it today because you're picking a budget number, but Angie and I would want some direction fairly soon on whether you would want that 4% to be 4% across the board, or do like it was done previously, where took the second allotment and divided it by the number of full-time employees. Last year that worked out to be 1,600, and so your lower income employees that are more affected by inflation are receiving a greater benefit. Now, I think you'll be fine avoiding compression issues if you do that again, but you want to be careful not to do that too many times, if that makes sense, because if you end up with compression issues, particularly in the police department and recreation, that makes sense. So just something to think about, but 4%, I think you'd be fine if you wanted to do it just like you did last year, or you could just make it easy and do it across the board. The other thing that you could do, but you'd be levying for it if you did it, but the other thing that you could do is you could follow Tom's suggestion for this part too, and you put in more and then have a budget workshop at the end of the year and see how you're doing. But at that point, it's a little bit more complicated than it is with lost because you're levying for the funds. So, but that makes sense, what I just said?
Mm-hmm. It makes it more complicated, but it could be done.
So what would that figure be at 4% if you did that? Sid, did you come up with that figure?
What was that? What'd you say, Todd?
It'd be a percent of the core. If you figure on the new 1,600, you'd have to use 1.25 of that. 2.75 might be a lot of that.
Have to wait on me.
Okay.
You can talk about something else while I'm working on this.
All right. So, we've got a couple comments. Go ahead, Tom.
So would the department heads have a recommendation in regards to those options? About going either 4% across the board or utilizing the program we did last year?
You ask me?
Kind of, because you're the only one here. And Chief Birch.
I guess I'd like to know what the percent of quarter is. Right, 'cause that makes a difference. Because then it's a whole dollar amount.
I mean, I guess I'd be willing to follow your recommendation, is what I'm trying to say.
Last time I fully supported the flat dollar amount because I'd seen benefit to the people that were lower income or lower or wage earners. And I guess I don't know that I would really feel any differently this time. I don't know.
Makes no difference to me. I think Sam brings up good points either way.
Okay. I guess that gives us a little more information.
I'm more worried about retaining my people than I am me, if that's what you ask.
Retaining your people, then what?
myself.
Oh.
We would have to give them the 2.75 period, plus the flat rate with that, is that what you're figuring there? Give them that 2.75 that we negotiated?
Yeah, if I can.
Yeah.
Okay, so the, each 2.75, based on the previous calculation, is about 53,000 in raw dollars. So if you take a second 2.75 and you divide it by 30, which is the current number of people, that's based on the total compensation statement, that's the new 1,600 is now about $1,770. And if you take the ratio and you go to 1.25 instead of 2.75, then instead of $53,049 that you're dividing up by 30, you're dividing 24,113 by 30, and that gets you to $803.76 divided by 2,080, which is the number of hours in the working year. Remember, we have some 12-hour shifts, so we'll just keep it simple. So 803.76 divided by 2080, it's about 38 cents an hour, if you do the additional 1.25. So figure about 77 cents an hour or 38 cents an hour. Yes, $1,768 is, it works out to actually be 85 cents an hour if you did the full 2.75.
So Tom, at that 4%, I definitely would want you to do the flat rate, because otherwise my people that are making low-end money, like my rec guy that we're trying to hire for $38,000 is gonna get
Nothing.
nothing.
Right.
Where $800 might mean something to them, but,
I could understand that, yeah.
that number shrank up quite a bit.
Right. So, as Sam mentioned, utilizing my mid-budget analysis, proposition, we could go with what is the 4%, the IPERS and the fire HR as it's represented there, and then reevaluate it at that mid-budget point again to see if there could be another adjustment at that point.
Just so I'm clear, when you say another adjustment, can you give me an example?
And would it be an adjustment upwards only, or an adjustment downwards if necessary? I think that's what you're asking?
Well, I mean, if you adjust it upwards, know that I can't levy in the middle of a year.
Yeah.
We're stuck with whatever we levy.
Correct,
Okay,
correct,
yeah.
right.
So like,
But in the back of my head, I'm thinking that, I'm thinking our revenue is going to be better than what we're giving it justice for in our budget. But I'm also very comfortable being that conservative at this point.
You're comfortable with what? I didn't catch that word. Comfortable with
I'm
what?
comfortable being that conservative.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Mhm. And so I don't know. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to stay within our levy at this time. Now, how flexible we can get with that, I understand your question too, Angie. We can't change mill levy in the middle of the trip, but
Can you tell us what we need to stay in the levy? I mean, do you have an idea?
That's what these
That's what
numbers
those
in
are.
that
That's what that
right-hand
number
column
is.
are.
Right there.
right,
4%.
yeah.
I can. So you take a look at the boxes that Angie put together on the levy. There are three options on page 2 that add up to 15.218. That's about 3.5 cents off of box number 3 on page 1, which contains all the same elements except the 4% goes to the 5.5. So you're fairly close together. And yes, it is a mild increase in the levy, but it's somewhat offset by the news that we received this afternoon, which I think will probably pass the House too if it was unanimous in the Senate. So I think you would be on solid ground to go with, if you wanted to go with box number 3 on page 1, which is the Emergency Services IPERS, which basically means changing the frequency of pay to monthly for all 4 branches. Fire hourly, and the FT at 5.5%, and then actually implement the 1.25 divided by the number of employees, and then put it into that, and then you can have an agenda item later this fall if you want to do the other 1.5%. And then you could decide at that point whether you want to do the 1.5%. Actually, because it'd be at the end of the year, it'd be best to do the 1.5% going forward, because otherwise it probably creates a paperwork problem for Angie at the end of the year. Angie, how would that work if we did an agenda item like in December and the council decided that they wanted to make it be 5.5? Would that raise blood pressure real high if that was retroactive to July 1, or would it need to go forward? I assume that it would cause a real problem to retroactive.
If you retroactive, people's taxes would be horrible.
Yeah.
It would, it'd be like it's like it's like a large sum payment that you're, your FICA and IFRS or FICA and Medicare would probably be taxed highly.
Yeah. I think if you do it, you have to do it right at the beginning of the year and go with it.
So where are you at?
As in which one on these pages? Probably the third one.
Oh, on page 1?
On the... Yeah, I believe that's the one. I do like the deal where you take the extra percentage and divide it equally. I like that. That helps the people on the lower side of the pay scale.
Ken, where are you at?
Okay, if we do that, how does that affect what we agreed? Does that do anything to affect what we agreed, that 2.75 in negotiations?
They're getting that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
plus.
and then the
Okay,
extra,
That's what I thought, okay, yeah.
the extra, what was it, 800 or something?
I like the idea of the lump sum thing too.
Right.
So go with, and at the 5.5% for full-time employees. Or 4%.
4%, I thought we were talking.
What's that?
I thought we were talking 4%.
I thought it was
Well, that's the second one on the second page.
Yeah.
The third one on the first page is the 5.5%.
Yeah, I thought it was going 4% plus.
That's the third.
So Brad, you like the one that is
That's
at
number
4%?
2 on,
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
That's really what we're
Yeah.
talking, 4% or 5.5, right?
correct.
Right.
So that's what we're really talking, 4% or 5.5, which, that's the answer you need, that's the question you need to answer.
Right. That's one I thought you were talking about.
So Brad, did I hear you right for the 4%?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was Susanna going to do, 5%, do you remember?
Well, that was this box over here, but
I don't remember what
You
this
got too
is.
many
Four,
pieces.
was Sioux Center 4.5?
4.
Oh.
I believe it was 4. I don't have it in front of me.
Part of me says, let's do the 5.5, just so we can say we pay more than Susanna, with rates to more than Susanna.
I think we have to live within our, yeah, I think we need to live.
raised, I changed, I said we raised it more than Susanna did.
You can say that, you can't say the first.
I just don't want to get into the battles of, we're paying more than them, and then we get a higher percentage. I think we need to do what we, financially responsibility of council members can do.
Government staying in budget, is that what you're saying?
We have to do whatever we feel is financially responsible.
That's right.
Because we can't go print money like the federal government can, and just keep adding to it. I know everybody will want more and more, but we have to be good stewards of our tax dollars.
All right. Pete, I didn't really hit you exactly, you kind of commented, or you, anything else you want to comment on? Or
no,
share?
I'm in consensus on the
You're the
4%.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion, do you want a motion for that too, or do you, that's what I'm hearing, the consensus is 4%. The second box on page
It'll come back
2.
in a form of a resolution, so,
Okay.
I mean, as long as I know what I need to budget, I will budget everything at 4%.
And an even split for everybody, and that, whatever that extra 1.25% would be split even, everybody gets the same slice of pie.
And if I might, we might have 3 additional full-time employees by then. So the calculation I did was divided by 30, and I'd kind of prefer to keep it that way, because if I divide it by 33, that's a little bit less. So I just want to disclose that now. Are you okay with having that amount divided by 30 and having, it doesn't matter, I just didn't want that to become a question later on. So we'll just do divided by 30 if you're all right.
You're offering them a starting wage, so that's what it is. Yeah.
We've budgeted for additional employees, correct? I mean, we're not budgeting.
No,
But even if
I didn't mean it that way, I misspoke. So what I'm saying is that if you have 3 additional full-time employees, my thought would be that they would also get the $803.
No, they would be added
would
in on
not.
next time around.
It'd be on the next time around.
Okay, well,
Because you haven't even negotiated any wages yet for
Well,
them.
you negotiated for the job, which was the starting wage.
Yeah, which is the starting wage.
Right.
one of them's a union position. So that would just have to be the amount as the other officers. But the other 2, that would be
Yeah,
fine.
That's,
Right.
that's part of doing business on that one.
Yeah.
But will they be employed by July 1? All these new employees?
So Todd, you know how I think. You understand what I was trying?
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
You started to confuse me, so thank you.
Yeah, I think you just go with the current employees we have and you negotiate the rest.
Actually,
I
for-
understand what
understood.
you're saying, when we enact a new amount, the wage matrix changes. So therefore, if you hire somebody post-July 1, they'll be hired at the new wage matrix.
So they will be compensated.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that is only the
If-
union
if-
position.
If it's a union position.
which 2 of the 3 probably will be?
So
One.
police would be and water.
Water would be,
Right.
yeah.
So
The others, if it's one of us, salary, salary's salary, you
Yeah.
could take the second.
Yeah.
So if it's in the wage matrix, you
Yeah, and those 2 positions they don't get to negotiate really anyway for a starting wage, do they?
can't. No,
No, so, there you go.
just like we don't get to negotiate.
Yeah.
Really, we get what the union gets.
Yeah.
Just to be clear though, if we're including the water operator, it would be 34. Right now, we've got 3 vacancies,
Oh, yeah.
and we're adding a water operator.
Well, I think if we just make it $800 an employee, and then you divide that number into whatever the hourly rate is and call it good.
Well,
Sam, that's why you get paid that, figure that out.
yeah.
Okay.
It's more than we get
All
paid
right,
in our
right.
pay grade.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Angie
Yeah,
said
figure
we
it out.
might
We
have
have
a little
consensus?
left
We
with
can
the
move forward
extra
on this?
levy anyway, so.
You know what we're all,
I do.
Yep.
okay?
And that keeps us in budget.
Huh?
Huh? 27.
1524.
Okay.
1521.
Right. That's where I'm at with it. Right. And she knows that, and that's why she said what she said about this.
So I'm just levying to get it as close to where we can right now.
We talked earlier about
That's
leaving the levy
That's
as
what
is.
you want. Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to make, I just want to be clear. Okay.
And that's what
Levy
I've been,
stays what it is.
and that's what I've been speaking from, is that. So, so with that, that will give you a little extra based upon what your option was showing there.
Okay, let's move forward. Anything else?
No.
Then we are going to move into item D, there we need a resolution to set the time and place of the public hearing on the fiscal year maximum property tax dollars and approve the hearing notice. We need a motion to approve that resolution. So move. What?
Is that ready to be approved, Dan?
Sorry.
This resolution, with this is, can we
We
make?
can set the time and place,
Okay.
which is going to be March 1, right? Is that what we talked about?
Whatever you outlined in that schedule, revised schedule.
It has to be March 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, March 1, 4:30.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Kent,
Aye.
Snyder,
All right.
Hamel,
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
All right, can we consider that wrapped? Thank you. Tied up with the wolves.
It's clear as mud. Hope you got it figured out, Andy.
All right, let's move on to reports. Anything else, Sam, from you today?
I'll just briefly say I've got a memo on there on ordinance review. There's really nothing very interesting in chapters 100 to 150, but 151 is going to be a big one, and that's trees. So be thinking about that, and we'll talk about that next time.
Todd, anything further from you?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Kurt's not here. Chief Birch? Angie?
Thank you for finishing this tonight. I appreciate it.
Counsel to my left?
If you have a fire hydrant in your neighborhood, take the time and dig them out. It will save us a lot of time. Some of them you drive around town, you can only see the tops of them. And if you're cleaning parking lots, don't pile the snow up against the fire hydrants either, so. No. Well, they do one, but then they come by the next day and clean it up, so.
Can I get a fire hydrant in the middle of my driveway place then? So-
You have to talk to Todd about that.
Anything else from you, Todd? Any comments from you?
No, I think that's
I
enough for me,
have,
thank you.
2 people came and just said to remind people to keep the sidewalks clean. So I did what they asked.
Last time I cleaned my sidewalk on the east side along Pine Street, my snow blower the inlet was not tall enough. I was undermining the whole way through.
You might have to use a shovel.
I know the feeling.
I just went over it twice, Ken. I went over it 2 times. So.
My only comment is, I want to thank every one of you for your participation in this whole budget process. It is a grueling, at times mind-boggling experience from department heads, all as it funnels its way up. And every year we do it, you know it's coming, and it's amazing. And I said to you last week, you used the word, it's an intricate, huge, intricate puzzle that will try and make all those pieces fit. And I walk away from it at the end and think, wow, we did it again. So thank you all. Appreciate your efforts.
Make the motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Eggers,
Aye.
Kent,
Aye.
Snyder,